Okay, what's up? It's me, it's your boy KP, and I don't normally do these. Not really too sure why I feel like I want to do it right now, but yeah, I'm gonna review a movie and give my thoughts on it, and they're gonna be pretty jumbled. Um, Not necessarily because I super liked or disliked the movie, but it just gave me a lot of thoughts and a lot of comparison, and I think I just need to have like an info dump of my brain just to get it all out. So first and foremost, the movie that I saw was Hadestown, the ProCut. It was very good. Full disclosure, I've seen Hadestown in person already. I saw it a little over a year ago, I think. No, more than that. Maybe 2 years ago. I saw it at the Amundsen Theater in LA. Of course, with different casts. It wasn't the original cast that was shown in the London production, which was the Pro Shot movie. Shout outs to the cast from there as well, the original cast. It was very incredible. It was a delightful movie, as it was a great show to see live. Um, I guess, long story short, in terms of review, if you have time to see it, go see it. It is technically, I mean, it is as long as the Broadway show. So be prepared to be there for a while. I mean, you're not going to be there for as long as, like, let's say the Odyssey, but it's going to be pretty long. Yeah, and you're going to get my cough too because I don't want to edit it. I don't want to edit it. If this gets edited, it was an AI edit. Or just like it was like built-in software from the software that I'm using right now. But anyway, yeah. Uh, so one thing that I got out of this movie, I'll start it with this. I'll start with an anecdote. Leaving the movie, I was behind these two women, actually, young ladies who apparently haven't seen the actual live musical, and were also very apparent that they did not know the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, the myth and legend of, well, I don't know if it's a legend, it's the myth, but like they didn't know it. So when they were leaving, they were talking about how they were just like, I hope Orpheus doesn't turn around. And I thought that that was interesting, considering that even when I saw it during like the Broadway show, I was like, well, I know this story. I learned it in school. That Orpheus, Eurydice, Orpheus goes down to hell to retrieve Eurydice, but in order to bring her back, he has to walk with her behind him and can't turn around. And I think in the myth, and there's different endings to it. But what I was taught, or what I remember, is that upon approaching the surface and seeing that they've made it, in his excitement, he turns around to kind of celebrate with Eurydice, only to discover that she's gone because he turned around just one moment too early, and that brings Eurydice back to hell. And then that's the tragedy. If you see the movie, it's a very similar depiction of what happens. I don't think it destroys the story. I'm sorry if it does. If you don't know the myth, well, like, it's not a spoiler alert. Like, the myth is like over 2,000 years old. I mean, if you missed it, that's on you. You kind of go in with that as well too. I mean, the first number is Hermes talking about how it's just like, it's a sad story, but we're gonna sing it anyway. It's a sad song. It's a tragedy, but we're gonna sing it anyway. And again, that's how it actually ends as well too. Um, it is a lovely um, it is a lovely musical and performance, and does have a lovely story in it. The reason I guess I wanted to talk about this, I don't know like has gone over me with that. But that anecdote between those two saying it's like, oh, I wish it didn't. I feel like to them it's just like it kind of ruins the story. It's just like, oh, like, like it should have been a happy ending. And I get that. Okay, look, I get that. I get that. A lot of people want to see love stories and they want to see happy endings to them, and I think that that's where I'm somewhat in disagreement. Uh, with the story, and I mean, one of the things that kind of reminded me, uh, there's what the Orpheus and Eurydice story reminds me of, what Hadestown kind of reminds me of, is two things, which is basically one thing. Um, kind of the first thing is really just like human tragedy. Um, Specifically where I live in LA. If you think of success through tragedy, LA, specifically like Hollywood, like quote unquote Hollywood, like this whole pursuit of fame that this city can be very, very, very known for. That people are just trying to make it, trying to, at least that used to be the narrative. I don't know if that's the narrative right now. I don't know if like Gen Z and Gen Alpha and even the generations to come are going to continue with that narrative. But I know when I was growing up, that was the narrative. The narrative was like everyone's always just trying to make it. The more modern saying to that is everyone's trying to secure the bag. But yeah, everyone just wants their 15 minutes. Everyone wants their 15 minutes of fame. Everyone wants that. Uh, what you do find out from what I found out from some of my colleagues, what you find out from the industry is that there's just a lot of sacrifice and payment in order to get that. And some people haven't fully calculated that and how much that really does cost. It's it's but it's a familiar story. Again, just like um Orpheus and Eurydice. Um it's familiar that in their stories, their pursuits of what they think is success. And it's not to say that it wasn't like you can tell, like the story does a really good job of intertwining their successes as one. Not to say that they were pursuing two different things, but in the sense their two different things brought them together. Or Orpheus was trying to bring the song of spring back so that this, like, all the seasons would work properly again, so that there'd be like food again, there'd be harvest again, there'd be all these things again. In that regard, it intertwines with Eurydice, where she's just trying to survive in a world that has been cruel to her. She's just trying to find safety, and in that safety, she's just like, well, if the seasons work again, if I can be sustained again by this world, then that would be a success as well too. So they intertwine with one another. That's why in the very beginning, Eurydice is rooting on over, is like, hey, get that song done, like whatever it takes, get the song done, because if we get the song done, then it'll protect us. And Orpheus is like, I have to get the song done, or else nothing changes. So I mean, I really like their story in that regard. But and then you'll see in like the rest of the film slash play musical that there's quite a price to pay in order for all that to happen. And even though it's very fantastical, and dare I say mythological, the kind of consequence they have to pay, it's very reminiscent to the different kinds of things that people have to pay for in order to find their own successes. Especially here in LA or Hollywood, and like this whole pursuit of fame. So that's one thing. So the thing that the second thing that kind of parallels to it that I was really thinking of is another movie, which is technically also another musical, which was the is it 2019? Um, or not maybe 19, maybe even earlier. No, it had to be earlier than that because I named my car Emma. And I'm talking about the 2010s ish movie La La Land with Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. Uh, there was the same there was the same criticism that a lot of people, a lot of my friends actually said is they don't like the ending. And movie's been out for a long time, but just in case, spoiler alert, they don't get together at the end. These kind of like starstruck lovers where they 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 met precariously by chance, and they're almost like forced to make it work, which it really does, and you kind of fall in love with them, only to find that towards the end of the movie they have to separate in order to pursue their passions. Ooh, I apologize for all of that. You know what? I'm gonna drink. I have water here. I'm gonna drink it. I'm gonna get it ready to drink, and I'm just gonna clip this to my shirt so I can keep talking. But like, they had to do the same thing. They had to kind of give up something, sacrifice something, be sent away in order to pursue that goal. And I find it funny, but because like in that movie as well too, like they're they're put apart for like 5 years. I think it was like 5 years where they don't see each other, just like Orpheus and Eurydice. I know it's a big jug. Um, but I find it interesting because their story also kind of ends the same way, that they don't get together. Um, Yet I don't see it as a tragedy. And a lot of people are like, they're just like, oh, like, what could have been. That's what the whole epilogue number is about. It's like this. There's a life that they could have had. They would have had this kid. They would have had all this stuff. And I was like, yeah. But the movie also makes a good depiction about like, but they're still happy. Like they got what they wanted. Um, I mean, if you think about it, I don't want to put too much into the movie. Like Orpheus got spring, spring's back, spring has returned, harvest and 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 like all of life has gone full circle. Literally, that circle of seasons has gone back. Eurydice technically also got what she wants. She's in hell, but not in a hell where she's punished anymore. Like she's literally helped the people in hell under Hades like find liberation. So she, even though she has to go back, and even though she fails in the quest, she is now around people who have hope. In a place where she's gonna be provided for. Like it's not. I mean, it's not the ending. Like, but it's just like she was making sure that like she was being provided, and then she goes back to a place. It's not her home, but it's to a place where like she doesn't have to worry about that stuff anymore. Plus, it's not under this dictatorial, like seemingly like industrial capitalistic like world of Hadestown. Now it's just Hadestown is just like, it's just like, it's fine. Like Hades is happy, and Persephone comes like every 6 months and stuff, and it's nice, but it's not exactly what they wanted. They had to sacrifice like that love. And it's not to say like going back between La La Land and the fact that like the La La Land's ending doesn't bother me. This ending actually does bother me. I don't like it. It's the second time. It's so funny, when I was watching the movie, I was just like, I know it's gonna happen. I know what's gonna happen. I know he's gonna turn around. I've already seen the clips. Like I've already seen the clips on Instagram. I'm like, he's gonna turn around. And what really hurt in watching this version this time was not just knowing the ending, but knowing exactly where the ending was. Like like when you're watching like the musical the first time, you don't know how they're gonna do it because you're not familiar with it. Like now that I'm familiar with how the play works, I know exactly what's gonna happen. There's gonna be all this drama, and Eurydice is gonna be like, "I'm here. Don't even worry about it. I'm still here. I'm still here." It's like, mother, he's gonna turn around. Like I know he's gonna turn around, and you don't want it to happen. And I think that that's the thing that really like like bothered me at the end of the movie. It's just that the more I watch it, the more you're just like, I don't want him to turn around, but he's going to. Um, and I don't know, like between these two movies, like I guess I'm wondering, like, why do I not like the ending of Hadestown, but I like the ending of La La Land, even though they have very similar endings. Maybe you don't get to see it. Maybe one is very, um, very depicting the fact that that one is tragedy and one one chooses to defer the tragedy, saying it's not tragic, saying it's just life. But then see, like Hadestown could be the same. Like you can just say it's just like this is what life is. Some things just don't work out. Sometimes, yeah, tragedy happens. So I like the end with the conductor Hermes actually says it's like um it's a sad song. It's a sad song. In fact, it's a tragedy, but we sing it anyway. Um, and I kind of think of that, and I think of the idea of tragedy, and I think that that's what's bothering me tonight. Not because I don't like tragedy, but I don't like. Not that I'm a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of tragedy, but I think we don't put enough emphasis on the power that tragedy creates for hope. So it's such a weird thing because, like, if it's such a tragedy, then how come Hadestown doesn't end that way? If you ever seen like the play ends not with not with the tragedy, not with Orpheus like dwelling on his loss, but it resets the story. And I find that interesting because it's just like, well, here's Orpheus, he failed. And then just like moments later, you're hearing Eurydice come in as she did from the very beginning of the musical, and and almost like compelling us to be like, can you listen to this story again? Can you hear it again? Um, I find that very interesting. It's just it's like, oh, you're telling us to embrace a tragedy, and I find that interesting because it makes me wonder why. If it's just the tragic ending that we need to focus on. And again, it's not to say that we should downplay the power of tragedy. Something about tragedy helps us like reestablish our minds to the fact that things just don't work out. And not that like not that we skirt them under the rug, not that we ignore them, not that we try to move on from them, but to in some ways embody them in order to move on. So I like how Hermes at the end is saying it's like, look, a tragedy happened. We understand. In fact, for some of you who already know the story, like me, when I first saw it, I was like, I know what's gonna happen. It's such a weird thing to watch something where you know what's gonna happen at the end. And I love how the play does it. They're just like, did you think we were gonna change the ending? We're not gonna change the ending. But now that you know that the ending will not change, even though you walked into the theater knowing the myth, like you've known it since childhood. I've known it since childhood. I know Orpheus and Eurydice. I know what happens. I know what he's gonna do. I know he's gonna turn around. And yet, why have I spent the last 2 to 2.5 hours watching this play, knowing it's gonna end this way? Um, and I think it's because what the play's trying to say is, in so many words, it's important to remember. It's important to remember what happened. Perhaps it's moral. Perhaps it's important to remember what happened to Orpheus so you don't do it. I mean, that's the obvious thing. Um, but then I think of going back into the comparison of the other movie. See, La La Land does the same thing. La La Land is just like, hey, we're these two are not going to get together. We're going to make a very like a very like very not compiling. It's we're going to make a very good argument as to why they should be apart. Like it takes a good 15, almost 20 minutes to show you how it's like their lives are fine. Like there's this big quote unquote tragedy of them splitting apart. This like starstruck like love story that they've created, and 5 years later, instead of like making it to the surface, neither one did. Like they did, but none, but not with each other. And what I like about La La Land, if you haven't watched it, is they have a very interesting final shot where they look at both of them. So they look at Mia, this is a girl, is Emma Stone's character, and Seb, or Sebastian, which is Ryan Gosling's character. And they look at each other, and then they smirk or they smile. At the end of everything, they're just like, it's fine. I mean, it sucks, but it's also fine. Because in everything that we gotten, it's still it still worked out. Did it work out the way that we wanted? No. Does life continue to move on? Yes. And is there a redeeming quality to all of that? Yes, as well too. So I think what troubles me, or what's been troubling me, or what troubled me about Hadestown is that it's the same reminder. That's just like, you know what? That sucks. It sucks because it's so easy to be like, it's so easy just like those two girls that left. It's just like, I wish he didn't turn around. I wish Orpheus didn't turn around and they just lived happily ever after. But sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. But we'll sing the song anyway. Because maybe maybe that's what it means to move on, is to remember a moment and not live in it, but to be able to encapsulate it as a part, as an embodiment of who you are, and still move on. I'm not saying it's easy. That's why I don't like this. Like, if I have to watch it again, I know the third time is gonna hurt even more, because I was like, I know exactly the beats. I know, and it's gonna hurt even more when I see Orpheus turn around. I'm going to audibly cuss, because I'm like, no, stop turning around. And I think it's also because the embodiment in me of that story is that, like, if anything, if there's turnaround moments within my life that I regret not having turned around, like, I don't want to repeat those things. But I'm glad that I saw it. I'm glad that it's a story now in my life, and not continuously in my life. And I think that that's what this story of Hadestown is trying to do, at least for me. And also because I'm also because of my degree, and because I'm a theologian now, I wonder what it says about God, if there's anything that it says about God. Um, and the one thing that I can figure is that, every year we celebrate a tragedy. Like, as believers, we celebrate a tragedy. Like, we might, as believers, as Christians, or like, we celebrate birth. We celebrate, like, December 25th. We celebrate the birth of Christ. But every Easter we celebrate the death. And I wonder why. In lieu of watching this musical, and in remembrance of also watching the other musical, La La Land, I wonder, like, is there something to be noted within the tragedy? Because we forget, we always highlight the resurrection of Christ. We always highlight the like when Jesus rose from the grave. That's the Easter that we celebrate. But we forget that 3 days before there's a tragedy, and we tell that story too. I think sometimes we don't like it. I think modern Christianity sometimes shirks away from it, or like contemporary Christianity kind of shirks away from it. More traditional faiths continue to remember it. They continue to hold fast in the powerful tragedy of what the cross was and is, um, and the importance of that in the life, in the life of our Savior, in the life of Jesus. But we don't in modern times put a lot of emphasis in that. We put a lot of emphasis in the resurrection part, which also makes sense because we wouldn't have a faith without the resurrection part. But you can't have resurrection without the tragedy of death. Um, I just think of that. I think of this. We don't have to dwell on the fact that our Savior died, but it is important to tell the story. To negate the death within the story of Christ is to not give our Savior enough respect for what he's done. Because you cannot have everything that we talk about within our faith, like love and grace, mercy, faith. You can't have the elements of our faith without the tragedy of it. And if there's one thing that, like, I really want to strive for in reflection of this musical of Hadestown, is the fact that you have to tell the story. That in the end, part of the happy ending is the sad story. It's a sad song. It's a sad, sad song. It's a tragedy. But we sing it anyway. Yeah, so anyway, just watch it. Watch Hadestown. Watch it 5 times and be more hurt every single time you know that stupid Orpheus is gonna turn around and and hurt. Maybe emotionally bleed a little bit. And remember the song and sing it anyway.